Let's talk about vocabulary. Why it is so important, why you should learn as much vocabulary as possible every single day, as fast as possible, and how to do it. Obviously, I'll tell you how to do it, give you a few examples. And also, let's debunk the language learning is a marathon, not a sprint myth. If you learn it fast, you forget it fast, blah, blah, blah. Look, anyone who got, not even world class, anyone who got to a high level at anything, they did it by improving faster than mediocre people. Yeah? Mediocre people take forever to learn a skill, and language learning, a language is a skill. Language learning is a skill, by the way, is a skill that I developed to a much higher level than most of you, I would say. Language learning is a skill, and then each language is a skill by itself. But if you've got the skill, the language learning skill, you're good at language learning because you learn how to learn languages, then you'll get better at every specific language you want to learn much faster. Yeah. So you just, if you think you can't learn languages fast, it's because you suck at the skill of language learning. There's no reason to think that learning languages faster is impossible. You simply have been doing what they told you to do. You just blindly follow instructions, and that's it. You just follow the instructions given by mediocre people, and that's it. And you've never even considered that there are better ways of doing it. To those people, you just don't watch my channel. Okay. To those of you who want to get better at learning languages, this is extremely important. Learning vocabulary fast is extremely important, simply because if you don't know the words, you will not be able to understand the language, and obviously you won't be able to speak well either. So you need to learn a lot of vocab fast. And myth that whatever you learn fast, you'll also forget fast. It's very easy to debunk simply because, okay, let's talk about comprehensible input. Okay, you learn words in context, reading, listening, blah blah blah. Okay, if you've just memorized 100 words, common words, and then you start doing input, you'll understand a lot more of the input. And you're much more likely to remember something that you already understand than if you barely understand anything. Yeah. So if you're memorizing 100 words a day and then getting some input, you'll probably see those words over and over again in the input if they are the most common words. So the input will be much more comprehensible. You'll review those words regularly and you'll remember them. If you didn't memorize them with associations, input will not be all that comprehensible. So, yeah, you learn some in context eventually, really slowly. But if a language is something you can use all the time, you can just listen to it. So if you memorize lots of words, yeah, if you memorize lists and then you never touch the language again, obviously you'll forget them. But if you listen to the language regularly, why would you forget words that you just memorized? You're just seeing them again and again. Well, listening to them again and again in context. Yeah. So no, if you learn words fast and then you see them in context, of course you'll remember them. How do you learn them fast? Memorization with associations. Going to give you some examples. This, by the way, is the 10K list from Natural Language Learning. 10,000 words, the most common 10,000 words, which is enough to be fluent. If you know 10,000 words, you basically know everything you need to know. A native speaker knows 20 to 30,000, 40,000 if you're uh, some intellectual or something, but 10,000 is more than enough to understand everything and to be able to speak about anything. Yeah. How do we get there? Well, we learn the whole list. There's no way around it. Learning 10,000 sentences because we get a word and an example sentence for the word because context helps, right? You learning 10,000 lines by going over them over and over again is much more effective than just casual exposure to the language. It's just random. uh, random watching, random listening, that stuff, not effective. Much slower. You always improve much faster with deliberate practice, with a plan, with a strategy, than just with random practice, just random watching, random listening, random reading. Yeah, so let's focus on this vocabulary. I also use grammar lists to learn all the grammar, again with example sentences instead of rules, but let's focus on vocab now. Basically, what you need to do is go to the beginning and start memorizing words. So you take, well, not these ones, I suppose you already understand these ones. Let's say this is Portuguese and this is Spanish. You probably notice a lot of similarities, but also differences. Let's say you want to learn. Ooh, yeah, my shoulder's killing me. I got armbar and jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I think I've got. Yeah, anyway, let's say you want to learn vocab from here. So what you need to do is, well, a lot of them will already be cognates or recognizable. Yeah, problemas, médico, necessidade, necessity, medic, doctor. Yeah, a lot of those, hospital, hospital, differente, easy. Those are easy. Those are cognates. The ones you should memorize are not those. The ones you should memorize with associations are the ones that sound completely different. Um, if you already know a language like Spanish, then learning Portuguese will be much easier because there'll be a lot more cognates, a lot more vocab that you recognize because of similarity to Spanish. The more different the language is from the ones you already speak, the more vocabulary you'll have to memorize with associations. So let's say daughter, hija, filla, they look different, but they're cognates because they come from Spanish has this h sound, but once you learn the patterns in which it changes, yeah, the yeah turns into h sometimes, so it's recognizable. The h's turn into f's. But let's say you don't speak Spanish, daughter, filla. So you need something that sounds like this. So you can visualize daughter pretty easily. To make a mental image for daughter, and then fill, fail, fill, feel. Those were three different words. English is a complicated language. Um, file, find something that sounds, looks like this, and then visualize that as well, and you create some sort of story, some sort of interaction between them. You associate the words. Yeah. Um, Again, abaixo is debajo, also abajo in Spanish. Again, X's or LHs turn into h sounds. This is easy for me, but if it's under, not really. There's no similarity, so you have to associate it. Not with this one. Intervalo, easy. Abaixo, though, you have to think of under first. Something that's visualize something that's under something else or somewhere else, and then beige, something that sounds like that, and then you create a mental image. Um, Porta, again, puerta, easy for me, same root. Door, port, maybe port with a door, with like a house door, and there's a port in which the ships come in and the door opens, something like that. It needs to be goofy and very vivid for you to be able to remember it. Yeah, fechar. This one, for example, is cerrar in Spanish. Very different. This one, even I had to visualize and associate it. To close. Although this is tricky. You get some of this because this is machine translated. Close. The store is close to my house. Close has different meanings. Fechar is to close. And cerrar is also to close. Yeah. A loja fica perto da minha casa. It's Perto is similar to port, by the way, so you could visualize the same thing from earlier, and then it's close, and cerca in Spanish. So fechar is close, not being close, not the location. It's the action of closing, the verb. But anyway, fechar. So like you think of something, fetch, fish, fish maybe a fish closing a door, something like that. But you have to make it. You have to actually visualize it. Normally, every time I do this, I close my eyes for a couple of seconds and I visualize it. Yeah, far longe. Again, longe sounds like long. They have the same root definitely. So it's a long distance away. Far, easy. Caminhar, to walk. Uh, if you know camino, which is yeah, you know the camino, right? It's Camino de Santiago, Saint Jacob's Way. Um, the camino is what the pilgrims go to Santiago in Galicia through Spain. If you know that, then you can visualize them walking, caminando in Spanish, caminando in Portuguese. Otherwise, something else. Yeah, coming. I don't know. Yeah, this is very personal. So you need to visualize things that mean something to you. Yeah, you just keep doing this with all of them. So you do 20, 30 a day. It's a long list. Yeah, so you need to do a lot of them. But the more you do, the easier it get. So you visualize words, you associate them. Then you do some listening every day. And the more you associate words and you do some listening, you recognize more and more of the words that you're listening to when you well, with whatever you're listening to. Listen to some native podcasts. And the other thing you should do is, let's say you memorize a bunch of words, and then you stop with a session. But okay, you end today's session, and then tomorrow you left it here. Okay, you come back and you continue where you left. But the previously memorized words, just review the whole list in context. Yeah, just review the words. Just read it. Just that alone will be enough to, and that can you can do it quickly. Just read it, and if you don't remember, just check, and that will be enough to remember hundreds of words very quickly if you are using the associations. Yeah, if you just associate vocab and then never look back at the words again, obviously it's going to be hard to retain them long term. But if you listen in regularly and then reviewing the list, in a few weeks you know thousands of words, and this is how you learn to understand any language quickly. You keep listening to podcasts by native speakers for native speakers. You won't understand anything at first. Keep doing this, and you start understanding some words here and there. Keep going, keep learning. Also, increase the amount of words you memorize every day. It's a skill that you need to train, right? So you do 20 a day, 30 a day, eventually 100 a day or more. I know people who do hundreds because they are obsessed with the technique. I'm not. I'm way too busy for that, but I do at least 100. But if I had several hours extra every day, I'll do it. But just yeah, it can be, especially if you're tired. It can be fun as well, but it's tiring. Um, but yeah, keep associating vocab, review it, and then keep listening, and that's it. Eventually, you'll understand everything. This uh, technique, this method of combining three different associations, reviewing in context with sentences, and daily listening, you need 10% of the time uh, invested to learn to understand the language well than you would by just watching random videos online or any of that, because that's just very random. There's no real, there's no structure of, or maybe there's structure, but there's no, okay, this is the thing. Without associations, you need to see every single word a dozen times or more to remember it well. So it's going to take, you learn the most common ones fast, but after that, it's just going to be very slow. So you need to keep doing this, especially with advanced vocabulary later on. With the from after 5,000 words down there, you you'll have to do it much more, because otherwise it's going to take you forever.